Exposure time is independent from technical needs, and I adopted exposure time to situations, to moments, but in a sense of longer moments, to expose or to create images from situations. IMS project, I was for the first time really thinking that this kind of photography is very close to architecture, because it's in a way a rhythm. It predicts a rhythm of architecture. Like, okay, you make the platform, then you make the steel bars, and then the concrete comes, and this takes some weeks or some days, and it's a very slow process. Here was the same. You mount the tripod, you drill the hole, you change the film, takes half an hour, so everything is on a very slow level, and is more shaping images like architecture is built. So it's kind of a parallel speed in a way. My photography is adapting to the speed of architecture. Started with black and white film. The film was surprisingly from the East German disappeared Orwo, which was a part of ACFA before the war, but then when East Germany was separated, they called it Orwo. And the Orwo was still producing glass negatives, which was not usual in those days anymore. Only Kodak, some in the US, and Orwo produced glass negatives. And that's why I went to the place, Bitterfeld, and saw the factory and met the head of this branch and bought glass negatives from Orwo. So that was the starting point with black and white film. The first surprise was I remember it's still today the same. It's always a big shock. It's a very deep emotional shock when you see a picture that collected so much time, because you know how daily life is and how much you try to project something for the future and how much time passed. But then when you see this on one picture, it's still a big shock, because so many things happened, and all the picture is a huge accumulation of time. A time frame exposed on one picture that is very hard to digest. It has a bit of an eternity idea. You look into something that is out of your projection, what you can experience in a picture. I like that you can go and take it very close, and you can take a distance, but the moment where you get a step closer to the picture, so many details show their presence and their absence at the same time, and this is where life condensates. In this crystallization or dissolution, the pictures, they connect to your own imagination. And this is one reason why I never gave up with this technique, because it's very rich and definitely not delivering and fulfilling the expectations of daily photography that we are all going for. So the time is creating and erasing at the same time the image, and this is the fascinating thing that I never know what will be on the picture. I have no idea how this new building here, for example, will manifest. But this gap between the projection and the evocation from the picture, this is sort of the place where I like people to be when they look at my work. This is the first time that I'm doing a project in South America. So far I only did in the US and in Europe, and some things are pretty very different here. The temperatures are different, the humidity is different, so this all are conditions that in a way influence parts of the project, and have to live, have to deal with this, and have to make it work anyway. But it's more try and error here than in Europe. The EMS project, we're having 6 cameras. We're using from 4 different angles, and that was very supportive that I could convince EMS to let me use 2 digital cameras, because now is a moment in my personal history where I'm trying to use digital long exposure. And so we have on building 1, we have 2 cameras from the same perspective, making a digital and making an analog exposure. And also on building number 4, it's the same thing. We're using a very similar angle for 2 cameras, an analog and a digital camera. And then building number 3 and building number 5, they having 1 analog camera, which is in a way the system I'm using now for 20 years, analog film, analog developing, and this was in a way what the initial proposal was, to take this in an analog way. But now for 1 year I'm already having a digital long exposure project running in Berlin. But every camera is catching a bit of Avenida Paulista, so I'm quite curious how this will look. Like we will having maybe only pictures have small part, like the view between the buildings, looking to the street and looking into the side. You have more from the street, but these other cameras, they have a very small, tiny parts. Picturing Avenida Paulista. This will be a sideline of the images, that there will always appear a bit of this iconographic street. So this is kind of a suspicion, or something like looking forward to see this in relation to the construction. Yeah? But the rest is more about patience and then enjoying this construction. When the EMS will be finished, it will be 20 years I'm taking projects like this. With the idea to change the way of creating images, of sort of bypassing or undergoing or overpassing the decisive moment in photography, which was the big issue always in photography, the moment. And this was the starting point where I found many hints or details in the pictures that made me see that this longer extended moments, they deliver other qualities of photography.